Prithvi Shantirantarikshagam Shantir Dyav Shantir Disha Shantiravantara Disha Shantiragni Shantir Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shantir Nakshatrani Shantirapa Shantiroshadaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashva Shanti Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shanti Shantireva Shanti Shantirme Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu, sarvas sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayethi Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Te Namam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. So, welcome everyone. I hope you had a good summer, and as we do every year, although the Krishna's birthday began according to the lunar calendar, was celebrated a couple of weeks ago, but we are celebrating it today. So what I would like to share in the next few minutes are a few lessons that we learn from Krishna's life. When we look at spiritual life in general, we see that there are three broad steps in it. First is inspiration, second is education, and the third is practice. If we look at our own lives, we find that we all turn to spiritual life in a serious way because there is something or the other that inspired us. Some teaching, some idea, some personality, something that entered into our lives and struck a chord, something that resonated with our head and heart. So, for most of us, our spiritual life begins with some kind of inspiration. Now, inspiration by itself has a short life in some way. Sometimes you will see there are things which inspire us, and then if we don't do anything about it, after some time, it all kind of cools down. So, inspiration by itself dies out unless it is nurtured by education. That is learning, knowing something more about whatever it is that has inspired us. And education by itself cannot be life transforming unless education is backed by practice. And that's why all of these three are connected. And we see that therefore that in the lives of many lives, occasionally there will be times in life they suddenly feel inspired, maybe with some piece of music, very uplifting music, or some chance remark in a conversation. But then, after some time, we find it all just cools down. But suppose I become inspired by something, and then I start learning more about it, doing something about it, then it's a way to preserve that inspiration. So sometimes I like to think of inspiration is like getting in a car, getting a car. Inspiration is like getting a new car, and education is learning how to drive it, because you may get a new car. If you don't know how to drive it, it just stay there and get rusted after a while. And so you first know how to drive it, and of course, and then you actually drive it. A lot of people know how to drive, but they never drive. And so spiritual life is like that. You first get inspired, then you learn as much as it is possible about what it means, what it entails, what it requires of you, and then you actually do it. Because unless we drive the car, we will not reach the destination. It's not enough to just get a car. It's not enough to just know how to drive it. You must actually drive. You must first then know what your destination is and start driving toward it. And therefore, as we start practicing, in our spiritual lives, we will see that inspiration will come to us from many different directions. And so whenever, for an occasion like this, for instance, when we are celebrating Krishna's birthday, a very gigantic figure in the Vedantic tradition. And so it's important to ask, first of all, whether I find enough inspiration from his life or teachings or personalities. And secondly, then, what do I need to do to educate myself about Krishna? And there are two primary sources, two major sources of Krishna's life. And they are the Bhagavata. In its present form, the text probably has evolved over time and come around, say, 10th century or so. The other major text we learn about Krishna, although Krishna is not the central figure in that text, is the Mahabharata. And very few people have read the entire Mahabharata because there is at least 100,000 verses. And so there's one little section of the Mahabharata which is very popular, and that is the Gita. And many people are not aware that the Gita is only 700 verses from this large, huge epic of 100,000 verses. The Gita has become the most well-known text in the Vedantic tradition, partly because, as Swami Vivekananda once said, it's the best summary. The Vedanta scriptures cover such a huge area that to get a handle on it is not easy. And the Gita is the most concise, most pointed, and the best summary of the Vedantic teaching. And the Gita, therefore, has become a very well-known text. Now, when we look at Krishna's life, we see that there is a lot of intermingling of history and mythology. And this we find in many of these personalities from the Eastern tradition especially. Partly because in the Eastern text, Eastern tradition, the concept of time is very different. In the West, the time is very linear. And in the Eastern tradition, philosophically, they see it as more circular. And so they are not so much obsessed with history, or at least the way we understand history. And so a lot of times in the East, there will be a few historical details preserved, but along those things, several of these stories will grow. Now, myth-making is not limited only to the Eastern tradition. Myth-making occurs in daily life as well, even amongst your friends, even among the people you knew, even about your, say, the elders in your family, your grandfather, great-grandfather. So there are some stories you may have heard from your parents. My great-grandfather was this and that. And then you narrate it to your children, and then it's passed on orally from one tradition to the next. And then nothing is really written down. And so over time, the story does evolve. Not intentionally with the desire to distort it, but just the retelling of it from one generation to the next. Something gets added, something gets subtracted. And so therefore, when we read about Krishna's life, both in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavata, none of them are histories in the sense we understand it today. A question might come then, well, when I read about Krishna, is this the real Krishna? Or is the Krishna that is shaped and evolved through history? But really, as I said, that question can be asked about anyone, not just about Krishna. Who is the real person? Even among the people we know, even among our contemporaries. Sometimes we might say, well, I know this person. We have been together for a long time. Or this friend of mine, we have been friends for years. And still, we might say, what do I know? How much do I know? And merely having the statistical details about someone, the exact time and the year the person was born, the exact school that person went to. Besides this, how much do we know of the person with just these details? Who the other person is in its totality perhaps may always remain unknown. We may never know. The only person we can know fully and totally is our own selves. Because our own selves, we have a view of ourselves from the inside. The view of anybody else, no matter how close that person or that place is to us, it's still a view from the outside. And therefore, it makes so much more sense rather than worry endlessly about whether I know this person really, is to see what change or what influence that person has had in my own life. And that's the approach many devotees of Krishna, many students of Krishna's life have taken. That we may never really know who this person, Krishna of history, was, because we are separated by him, at least even from our sense of time, but at least more than 2,000, at least 3,000 years. And so they look more into whichever form Krishna has entered, or we have heard about Krishna, either through his life or through his teaching or through the study of the Gita. How has that life, how has that teaching transformed me? How has that person changed me? Because anything outside of us could be a myth, but self-evaluation, looking in our own hearts, that's never a myth. That's as close to reality as we can get. Hence, therefore, the question, what lessons would I learn from Krishna's life? Again, it's not for me or anyone else to tell any of us what lesson we are supposed to learn. We are supposed to look at these lives through our own unbiased, unprejudiced eyes and discover for our own selves whether there is anything we learn from these lives. But what I would like to do very quickly in the next few minutes is to share with you at least 3 of the major lessons that perhaps many of us might discover if we look at Krishna's life. The first lesson we see is that looking at just the personality of Krishna, that he's probably the most adorable, most joyful, even probably a most mischievous personality we find in the Vedantic tradition. His childhood pranks and, it's many of you who are already familiar with Krishna's life know how adorable the whole scenario is. Not only when he was a little boy, but even when he grew up. That kind of a playfulness was always a part of his life. So one of the first things that we learn, obviously, is that spiritual life does not always mean being always serious or with a long face. It's possible to be cheerful, joyful, and be very spiritual. But that was not the idea, and it's not a very popular idea. Normally we think if you're serious, then you're spiritual. Swami Vivekananda, when he first came to the West in the late 1890s, the question that was often asked was this: why do you laugh so much? And then Swami Vivekananda said, no, I do get serious sometimes when I have indigestion. So his idea was, we are the children of the Divine Mother, the blissful Mother of the universe. Why should we be morose? Why should we be sad? So I would like to read to you one quote from Swami Vivekananda's works. It's very relevant to what we are speaking about. So Swamiji said, despondency is not religion, whatever else it may be. By being pleasant always and smiling, it takes you nearer to God, nearer than any prayer. How can those minds that are gloomy and dull love? If they talk of love, it's false. They want to hurt others. Think of the fanatics. They make the longest faces, and all their religion is to fight against others in word and act. Think of what they have done in the past and of what they would do now if they were given a free hand. They would deluge the whole world in blood tomorrow if it would bring them power. By worshipping power and making long faces, they lose every bit of love from their hearts. So the person who always feels miserable will never come to God. It is not religion. It is diabolism to say, I am so miserable. Every person has his own burden to bear. If you are miserable, try to be happy, try to conquer it. As we say, if someone is miserable, just get over it. What else? What can we do? It's possible to just sit and keep on complaining and all that, but that's never going to make us happy. And I can guarantee you, there is not a single person in the entire universe who can say, I have no difficulty, I have no problems. It's just that some people are good at hiding it and some others are not. So everyone has their own burdens. But who is the person who grows? Who is the person who evolves? one who is not afraid of the challenges, but one who says, yes, I know there are difficulties, I will get over it. And a person who approaches their problems with such a positive mental attitude will find energy and strength coming. That's just the way universe functions. The more you cry, the more you weep, the more you complain, the more difficulties you'll have. But once you kind of get up and say, yes, I'm going to face it, we'll find that we are able to deal with it. So that's the lesson, one of the lessons that can come to us from Krishna's personality. Be cheerful and smiling always. The second thing we see in Krishna's life is calmness. So most of us tend to be calm when things are fine. But when things go wrong, when there is some problem, some difficulty, some stress, then somehow our calmness is disturbed. So the sense of calmness that we have is very fragile, can be disturbed. So what we need now is to find a way to stabilize our calmness. In Krishna's life, we see throughout his life that through innumerable difficulties he had, and some of you know that when he was a little child, his maternal uncle, name was Kamsa, tried every possible way to destroy him, to just finish him off, because apparently there was a divine revelation that uncle had, that this nephew of yours, when he grows up, is going to kill you. And so his idea was, well, don't allow him to grow up. Just kill him when he's a little child. Little realizing, well, if it's a divine revelation, then he won't be. It's going to happen. What's going to happen will happen. But nevertheless, as we would normally do, as we see that happening sometimes, that even when we know something is inevitable, and it's not something that we like, we try to fight it. And so that's what his uncle did. And in spite of these innumerable attempts on Krishna's life that were done, he remained calm. That doesn't mean he didn't fight it. In fact, the more you remain calm, the more energy we will have to meet our challenges well. Because sometimes the moment our calmness is disturbed, our ability to decide wisely is disturbed as well. And that's why we should never take any major decisions in life when the mind is disturbed. So try to be as calm as possible, because sometimes in a calm mind, with a clear mind, we are able to see things a bit more clearly. We know what we should do, what we should not do. But we'll see oftentimes, we probably have seen it in our lives umpteen number of times, that recklessly we decide something in the spur of the moment, and then oftentimes we come to regret the decisions that we took. So as I said, at least the major decisions, if you don't have to spend a long time to decide what shall I have for breakfast today, you probably can decide it on the spur of the moment. But there are major decisions in life. It's good to take your time. I mean, it's always easy to go to the other extreme. When you say take your time, someone said the other day, take your time has two meanings. One is, of course, what we understand normally by it. But take your time also means take your time, don't take my time. But take your time can also mean that we may postpone a decision just because I'm taking my time. So that's also problematic. So remaining indecisive for a prolonged period also makes us weak. So we have to kind of strike a balance at some point. Not rush into making decisions quickly, but not postpone it indefinitely either. And through trial and error, I mean, that's what maturity means. That's what growing up means. Slowly, we know how to strike a balance between not being reckless and not being forever procrastinating. Swami Vivekananda, the original battlefield scene of the Gita, describes it. It's a very long passage, so I'm not going to share it with you today. But he describes how there are these thousands of soldiers on both the sides, and everyone is raring, ready to go into battlefield. And those popular pictures of Krishna who was the charioteer of Arjuna in that war. Krishna is standing there with all these 4 or 5 horses with their raised front feet, and then Krishna is holding their reins in his hand. And while everyone is like raring to go to war with all this, that's the warlike expressions on the face, and you see Krishna is just calm and smiling and teaching the highest philosophy to Arjuna in that scenario. That's what calmness means. Here is one more quote from Swamiji that I like very much. So Swami Vivekananda said, "It is the level-headed person, the calm person of good judgment and cool nerves, of great sympathy and love, who does good work and so does good to himself or herself. The fanatic is foolish and has no sympathy. He can never straighten the world nor himself become pure and perfect." And then Swamiji goes on to say, "The calmer we are and the less disturbed our nerves, the more shall we love and the better will our work be." So remaining calm, and it's easy to tell others, be calm always. So we realize the practical difficulties. But however imperfect an effort we make, but the more we try to remain calm in life, we will find that we are able to get really more work done, and even the quality of our work improves. Sometimes we think there's a lot of stuff to be finished, just rush, and we think we'll get more work done. Actually, it doesn't happen that way. If you just kind of try it out once and see. We kind of feel I'm rushing and getting a lot of work done, but the output is not really that much, and the quality of work definitely suffers. But if I can be just calm and go about doing it calmly, oftentimes you will see that you will be able to get more work done and the quality will be better. So that's the second lesson, that to be calm always. So first is to be cheerful, and second to be calm. And a third and final, well, there are many lessons to be learned, but I'm just going to mention only 3, is detachment. Both Krishna's cheerfulness and calmness were possible because of his detachment. In fact, one recurring theme in all the stories associated with Krishna, historical or not, is that how detached he was. And of course, I already mentioned to you that he's right there in the battlefield with all this commotion and shouting and noise. He's there and yet he's not there. Now, a couple of points that need to be remembered in this. And that is the word detachment, because it's a common word in English and it's so much often used in conversations. We normally associate that term with indifference, or detachment meaning I'm cutting myself off from others. But that's not how the word is used in Vedanta or in spiritual life. Detachment means actually doesn't mean that you cut yourself out. Detachment means being involved and yet not being involved. Detachment means being a part of something at one level and yet being able to rise above that level and know that one is not really a part of it. It's a little bit like, it's like being, say, a Red Sox fan, which all of us are here, I hope, and you better be. So it's like being a Red Sox fan, being intensely involved into the game and enjoying the game. You're involved, you want your team to win, but at the end of it, whether or not your team wins or loses, you're able to rise above partisanship and know that after all, it's only a game, it's not a war. So that's what detachment means. For many things in life, we already have the power of attachment. And attachment is good, because only if we are attached to something, we are able to get it done. It's like when you're doing some assignment at your workplace, or as a student if you are preparing for your exams. You have to be intensely attached to whatever you're doing. That's great, it's necessary. In fact, concentration is nothing but total attachment to the activity in hand. No problem. The problem is only when that activity on that work comes to an end. When it comes to an end, we are not able to detach ourselves from it. That's the problem. It's like when you are at your workplace, be intensely involved, be completely attached. But then when you come home, if I bring the worries and anger of my workplace home, then my family life is going to suffer. So, can I detach myself from my work related stuff when I come home and get intensely attached to my family stuff? Then, when I go to work again, can I detach myself from this and attach myself to that? So, spiritual life, when we kind of praise detachment, it's not to put down attachment, but it's to emphasize that the more spiritual we are, the more ability we have to attach and detach at will. Right now, we are not, our will really is just helpless, just standing by. We just get attached, not willfully, we just get attached, or we just get detached, but nothing is happening voluntarily, nothing is happening consciously. So spiritual life means to know what is important, to know what is valuable, and attach your mind and body to it. Then when it's time to do something else, as we all have many things to do in life, detach yourself from the first activity and attach yourself to the first. So this constant practice of both attachment and detachment are important. So what we need is a sense of proportion, knowing that everything has a place in life, and wisdom lies in knowing what that place is. It's like both a microwave oven and a vacuum cleaner. Both are important, both are necessary, but they must be kept in their proper places. Your vacuum cleaner can't do the work of a microwave, and your microwave can't do the work of your vacuuming. And so both are, but since we know the relative values and use them at proper places at proper times, similarly, our attachment and detachments are like that. So finally, detachment requires that we know where everything fits in our life, and therefore we need neither condemn anything nor over-exaggerate anything's importance. And one other point, that's a difference between attachment and love. Normally, it's all kind of mixed up in our minds. We think attachment is love. Actually, it's not. Attachment is more about me. It's I'm attached to something because I like it, I love it. But love is not about me. It's about the object of my love, the person I love, or the place I love, or the food that I love. So when it's all about me, then it's attachment. When it's all about the person I love, then that is love. And so while superficially attachment and love might seem to be same or similar or synonymous, actually they are very different. They are actually completely opposite. Love can only produce a great sense of freedom and joy and fulfillment in life. It's attachment that produces grief, anger, suspicion, fear, all the negativities that we find come sooner or later through attachment. And therefore we find most of the relationships we have in life are a combination, because our relationships in life bring us a lot of freedom, lot of joy, lot of contentment, but sometimes also anger, sometimes also grief, all of these things. In other words, they are a mixture of attachment and love. And what spiritual life will help us do is try to eliminate that attachment so that only pure love will remain. And when only pure love remains, then what can result from that love is just contentment and joy and freedom, something that we all seek. And so we see that in the life of Krishna. We see that in the life of all these world saviors and masters and teachers and incarnations. We see in the life of the Buddha, Jesus, Moses, all of these great ones. We are able to feel their love even today, but they were the most detached among people. So it was not their attachment for us that we feel today, it's their love. So we can learn what detachment means by looking at the lives of these great ones. And one of my favorite verses, which I've quote often, and many of you have probably memorized it by this time, with that one verse from the book called Panchadashi. It goes like this: what will be, what will not be, will not be. Those who are wise know this,
So they are free from the poison of anxiety and delusion. So we must be involved completely in the things that we need to do in our life to carry out our duties and responsibilities as best we can. But after having done your best, after having given your best shot at things that you need to do, then we must have the ability to step back and say, now what will happen will happen. What will not happen will not happen. That is detachment. Because after doing your best, at any given moment, you can only do your best. Because if you can do better than your best, then that best was not really your best. So really, since we cannot do anything more than doing your best, after doing your best, we just watch. It's like any game. You give your best shot, you play as best you can. Then the results, in any game, somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. And what we realize is that while we have complete freedom in the internal world, our freedom in the external world is limited. So recognizing that the real change should come in our heart, changing the world might take a longer time. So recognizing that is what that detachment means. So the third important lesson from Krishna's life we see is be detached, because detachment, real detachment, not in the negative sense, detachment in the spiritual sense, it is that what will make us truly cheerful, bring real calm, and make us truly energetic. So to conclude, among the many, many lessons that we can learn from Krishna's life, I've just pointed to only three, what I see as major ones. The ability to be cheerful. See, it's easy to be cheerful when everything is fine. It's easy to be cheerful when wonderful things are happening. And it really doesn't need much effort. But can I force myself to be cheerful even when things are not well? That requires effort. And one of the ways cheerfulness shows itself in our life is just through a smiling countenance. Smiling, again, as I said, when you are really happy, smiling comes naturally. But when you really don't feel like smiling, but you want to force yourself to be cheerful, force yourself to smile, even though it may not be natural. Consider it is just like we have so many of the yoga postures are not natural either, but people do it. So consider it like some kind of a mouth yoga posture. The trick is this. When you find that in some situation you're getting irritated and there'll be always situations in life, there'll be always people in life to irritate you, always people in life to make you lose your patience. When you find yourself kind of about to erupt, force yourself to smile. It may be difficult, it may be awkward, it may not look like a natural smile at all. Doesn't matter. However awkward it is, force yourself to smile. I can guarantee you, it's very difficult to be nasty with a smiling face. It's very difficult to be angry with a smiling face. You may not have solved the problem of anger totally, but it's at least a quick fix solution. At least that moment will pass. And so smiling is a very, very helpful practice. It doesn't look, normally people say, oh, being spiritual, meditate. Of course, meditation is there. But smiling is also a spiritual practice. And if we learn to be cheerful always, we will be able to meditate better. So 3 of the major lessons, therefore, is be cheerful, be calm, and try to practice detachment. But I would still encourage you to make your own independent study of Krishna's life and teachings and see what lessons come to you. They don't have to be these 3. They could be many more. They could be different. Depending on our own requirements, our own specific life story, we will see that these great lives will speak to us in many different forms, in many different ways. So on this day, as we remember Krishna and his great contribution to our history and to our own understanding of life, may his grace enlighten our hearts and make us free. Om Jananim Saratam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum
Padapadme tayo shritva pranamami muhurmuhu. So beginning this week, all our programs at the society will resume, including the meditations on Tuesday and Saturday evenings from 6 to 7. For those of you who are coming for the first time and are not aware of it, so twice a week on Tuesday and Saturday evenings, we have the prayer hall open. For those, anyone is welcome to come and pray and meditate in their own way. It's not a guided meditation. You can come and pray in your own way. What we provide is a quiet, sacred space where you can do your practice. Of course, if anyone wants specific guidance about it, you can meet me. But on these 2 days, we just have a meditation hour. So all of you, many of you are already participating in this, but those of you who can are welcome. So that will be on every Tuesday and Saturday evenings from 6 to 7. We also resume our study group meetings on Wednesday evenings, that from 7:30 to 8:30. Presently, many of you know, we are studying the Gita. We have finished 15 chapters. So we will start this Wednesday with chapter 16. And if some of the earlier discussions, if you have missed them, we have recordings of those that are available in the bookstore. All of these programs, the Sunday and the Wednesday programs, are also streamed live, not the meditation. So in case on some day you're not able to come personally, you can still watch these programs either live or they are also archived on the website, so you can watch it at your convenience as well. So the idea is this. Idea is the more we are able to immerse ourselves in things that bring us greater meaning in life, bring greater fulfillment in life, that will make our life's experience richer, better, more meaningful. And then every once in a way, maybe once a year or once every couple of years, we can look at our own life and see whether there is any improvement, whether I'm a better human being now than what I was. That's the only way we can judge our progress. Not by comparing ourselves with others, but just comparing ourselves with our own selves. So with that, we will resume all our program beginning this week. So we'll have the closing prayer on page 3 of your books now. Then I will do Arati, and then we will sing Sarvamangala, and then we will have potluck lunch. That's the remaining part of the program. So let's do the prayer now. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto you.
We'll sing the English translation of Sargamangala on page 4.